All right, super excited for our guest today. We have Mr. Tom Evans on. Tom is the Associate Head Football and Lacrosse Strength Coach at the University of Delaware. He is a professional strongman. He was a standout guard at University of Richmond, was an undrafted free agent in 2017, played with the Packers for a short bit. Since then, has had tons of accolades. He went on to win the Arnold Amateur Strongman Competition in 2022, the Shaw Classic Open Champion in 2022. He came in 5th place in the Arnold Strongman Classic this past year in 2023, and was just most recently a competitor in the 2023 World's Strongest Man competition, where he was the event winner in the log ladder. So we are super excited. Tom, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, you've done your research. Wow, that whole paragraph makes you sound pretty good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, we're excited to have you on, man. You have, quite an interesting story, and we're football guys, so we're always excited to talk. But you're in a interesting world, and we were just briefly talking beforehand. I think every guy that played football in the summers before, probably for the past 15 years before going to, high school training camps and stuff, there was nothing on TV all day except like reruns of like World's Strongest Man. So I think we all grew up watching that stuff at some point.
Milk jug carrying, pulling trucks, throwing logs over, all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I had a little bit of experience with that, but me and my grandfather watched a little bit, but I probably don't have the same story where a lot of guys kind of like you said, have watched it every single day growing up. For me, it was me and my grandfather watching old football games. Strongman kind of came as a love later in life. But, definitely, now that I go back and watch some of the old footage, it's incredible what they were able to do back then, and then, still seeing the sport progress today.
Yeah, so, let's kind of take a step back into your journey. So, obviously, you're a standout, guard at Richmond. You played under Coach Rocco, just like Ryan did. We just had him on the show, so we're big fans of Coach Rocco. Talk to us a little bit about your college journey. Obviously, you were very successful there. Ended up playing the NFL a bit. What was that experience like for you? And was your aspiration early on always to play in the NFL? Was there early strongman things? What was that like?
Yeah, well, early college career, I definitely think Coach Rocco and his staff took a shot on me. I was a kid from a really small town, Western North Carolina, where we didn't pass the ball. I don't think anybody on that side of the state threw the ball back then.
What are you, the 20s? Were you in the 1920s here? Literally didn't throw the ball.
This region maybe in the 1920s, but this was 2011, 12. And so I was very raw with with pass blocking and anything that was pretty much not just counter or power blocking. That's all I know how to do. We get to Richmond. I find I got better at the weight room quicker than I did on the football field. Very quickly, after getting through freshman Fridays and all the kind of crazy stuff, got to my sophomore year, started breaking weight room records. And then by the time my junior year at Richmond, I was like, the weight room is something I really enjoy. I appreciate the background work that's done for the football career to be a better football player. So we really enjoyed that. And, that kind of turned into my day job, what I would love becoming a strength coach and the whole weight room component of it. But, as we progressed forward, I got better on the field and learned how to really use my strength to do what I wanted to do on the field. I still think I was one of the more athletic linemen at my size, but maybe probably not the most athletic, not as compared to those Walsh brothers I know.
And for reference, that people don't realize, how big are you now and how big were you at playing weight?
So I showed up at Richmond 270. Then I was playing around 315 to 325, and now I'm about 360.
Ooh.
We can't move like we used to. No more pulling. No more pulling guard.
Boys got some traps on them.
You'd be playing strong tackle now instead of quick guard.
Yeah, no. I probably at this point just play D-line and just bury the center every rep. Just go straight forward. But yeah, so towards the end of my career at Richmond, I was a two-time captain. Really embedded in everything football. Wanted to be a football player. Thought I had a good shot to play for quite some time. And so we kind of immediately, following Richmond, pursued the NFL. Spent a lot of time actually training with my uncle down in Alabama, but I didn't go to an Exos or, some crazy training camp in Florida where I was spending $10,000 on training. I basically trained myself for all the like pro day stuff, the 40, the bench press, all that kind of stuff. And then I get a little bit of help with offensive line drills from an ex-NFL offensive lineman twice a week. So that would be my first financial piece of advice is if you're not going to get it paid for, you should just learn how to train yourself instead of spending 20 grand to go to a freaking training camp where they teach you how to run a straight line. But I digress. No, and then I got to the NFL, and it was a perfect scenario for me. I love Green Bay. Beer, cheese, and football. It's kind of hard to beat. Just the area. Not talking about anything regarding us, since we have some Eagles fans in the room.
Yeah, we won't hold it against you, dude. You're in the NFL. You're in the NFL.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't like any of the teams now.
Who'd you grow up rooting for?
My grandfather played for the Giants. He was a first-round draft pick in '64.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's who we grew up rooting for, and but I was like, we got to go fishing pretty much every day at Green Bay. That like during OTAs, where you practice for 2 days and you take 2 days off. We go fishing all the time. Like it was a good fit for me. It didn't get any hotter than 80 degrees. It's where you want to be for training camp. So that didn't turn out like I wanted. I was really hoping to acquire a practice squad spot. I think, it's probably fair assessment that I didn't make a 53-man roster right away, but I was really hoping to end up on a practice squad somewhere, get some other shot, but I never really picked up any ground after that. I was cut at the last round of cuts in the September 1st, following the preseason. And I had a tryout with Jacksonville later down the line, at like a quick weekend fly down during the middle of the season, and then mini camp with the Washington, and like the mini camp of 2018. And then after that, I had enough. I felt like I was screwed in some aspects, rightfully or wrong, doesn't really matter. But I felt the guys that I've outworked were getting other opportunities. But at the end of the day, I think it was probably versatility that kind of led to my unsuccessful career, as I would call it. I could play a decent right guard, but you flip me over to the left side, my hips weren't in line, and I really tried hard to learn how to snap, but I probably played too aggressively to properly snap and then block somebody, so I didn't possess enough finesse to not send the ball way over the quarterback's head and then go block somebody.
Yeah.
And center's hard. You look at a guy like on the best team in the NFL and the best center in the NFL, Jason Kelsey, right? Go Birds. The amount of athleticism, coordination, finesse that it has, like there's only a few guys in the entire league to do it, let alone make a transition from guard to center. Like people don't realize how hard that position is.
Yeah, I was trying to, I'd never played center in college or high school or ever. So I was trying to learn a new position at the same time I was trying to elevate my level. And then I could snap fine on air, but as soon as we got, actual pads on and started playing, I was trying to block Mike Daniels and Dean Lowry, and it was just, I had a shot if I didn't have to snap the ball. Snapping the ball was hard.
Dude, just on that note too, like I think most people don't realize now that, dude, linemen nowadays, they're running 4.8s. Like it's outrageous. Like they're running what running backs were running 25, 30 years ago. Like the level of athleticism for today's offensive and defensive linemen is just out of control.
Yes, and that's why they don't wear knee braces, so they can move them. Because one, it's all pass game, right? So you got to be able to react and move and stay in that shuffle position very quickly, but be able to try to keep up with those defensive ends just screaming off the edge, as well as like long running games to the outside. It seems to be getting a little bit heavy again, but I'll be honest, I don't really watch any NFL games anymore. I can tell you what they're doing right now.
Yep. So, you finish up in the NFL, you decide, done for you. What leads you down the path of, wanting to go to this strongman route? Because it's obviously, something that not many people do or even know someone. I can speak for myself and say you're definitely the only one I know that's not, like a professional doing this.
Yeah. So at the same time I was cut from Green Bay, like we're in Delaware, and I'm still pursuing NFL. I'm still waiting on that phone call, and it was kind of like a not great time in my life. And the same time, the movie Born Strong came out on Netflix. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, highly recommend it, but I watched it and immediately was like, I think this is something I can do. I didn't think I'd be competing at the level I am now. But that movie follows Hathor Bjornsson, Eddie Hall, Sojournus, and Brian Shaw leading up to, I believe it's the 2016 Arnold Strongman Classic. So it's like the 4 biggest guys and showing you how they get to where they are and what they were doing. And I'm like, eating as much as I want and lifting heavy as shit. This sounds awesome. Sign me up. So after that, it was in the back of my head, and then I felt like things with Washington didn't work out like I wanted to. I was frustrated, and I think I actually started strongman training the week before I got the last second call in to go to the Washington minicamp, because I had talking to my agent. He's like, dude, I don't think anything's coming to this minicamp, and I was so upset and kind of confused that I just immediately started. We switched. I was supposed to do cleans that day. I did deadlifts instead, and I started trying to learn how to axle clean and press with putting a bunch of fat grips on a barbell, which didn't work. And then once that camp didn't work out, I think I started the next week. I took a whole summer. I trained just kind of on my own, just whatever made sense of strongman. Like learning how to. I've never deadlifted before. We didn't deadlift in college. We did full cleans. Mm-hmm. So like learning the strongman movements, and that was this May 2018. My first competition was April 2019 at Delaware Strongest Man, where there were 5 competitors and I took 3rd. Just to give you an idea, like when people talk about like football strength, and they're like, okay, there's a really strong offensive lineman, and you hear some people claim that any offensive lineman in the NFL could do what World's Strongest Man competitors are doing, and it's not true. I've lived both. Maybe not at the tallest levels of both, but it's not the same.
So when you were at the peak strength of like your collegiate early NFL stages, what kind of numbers were you putting up so people have a reference compared to what the average Joe is doing in their gym?
So I was probably one of the strongest college players there was. I can't prove that, but we can speculate. I performed a 425 power clean, a 525 bench press. Now, not by powerlifting standards by any means. I'm like talking about the full bounce, like slamming off my chest, but it still went up. It counts for college.
Of course that counts.
Absolutely.
And then a 690 squat. And if you guys get to talk to Coach Rocco again, I'm still upset. He didn't let me go 700, so we went 690 instead. And I hadn't heard of anybody hitting those kind of numbers in college, and this was like end of college. I'm not sure after pro day training I could have hit those kind of numbers, but I was for guys that followed the pro day training, I hit 30 on the 225 bench test both years, which is not the top, but I would have been better set for a max bench than a bench for reps.
Yeah.
Let's go 30 reps at that weight. It's just like
something doesn't tell me 360 is built for an endurance training.
I'd love to redo that test now. Now I don't bench as a strong man, but like take the power clean for example, I can clean that on a log any day, and now we're making sure I can press that over my head pretty much every day. So we've taken it from a clean to a clean and press. Squats. I'm really hoping for a max squat event soon. So I need everybody to spread the word that squats are cool. We want to see less deadlift events and more squatting events. Because I'm hoping I could push up $1,000.
1,000 pounds.
Or something close. And then deadlift, hit a PR at the Arnold, actually, the 850. And it took me a long time to catch my deadlift up to the other strongman standards, just because, like I said, like until I started training strongman, I had not done any sort of deadlift. And usually if you're good at pressing, you're bad at deadlift and vice versa. So the guys that are really special statically can do both. But I've caught my deadlift up to an acceptable range. I'm not going to win a deadlift event at these major shows, but if I can not lose positioning, it's a good day for me.
Yeah. And what are the lifts that you guys are competing at for this?
So the nice thing about strongman is nicer hard thing about it is different every event, but you have general categories that are going to follow in every time. You're going to have some kind of deadlift event, whether it's max, reps, a car, a weird bar, or standard bar. You're going to have some kind of clean and press, whether it be the giant dumbbell, a log, an axle, which is just like a really fat bar that doesn't rotate. And then you're going to have some kind of carry, whether it's like the farmer's carry or a yoke carry, and it could be a car instead of a yoke. Sandbag carries, stone carries, sometimes throwing events, usually like a sandbag for height or kettlebell for height, and then some kind of stone event. So a lot more posterior chain than like football traditionally trains.
Yeah.
Which is why I think both the Walshes should start training strongman.
This dude's down to about 190 pounds. He ain't.
I'm the opposite. Dude.
Strong.
I'm running and biking.
They have weight classes though.
Maybe.
And I
strongest 180-pound man in the world.
You'd be upset with Tommy. I think he's about 215 right now. You'd be heartbroken if you saw him.
No, I'm happy for him because I know how hard it was. So those that don't know, I actually coach Fran's brother at the University of Delaware. And one of my favorite guys. He can front squat. He can clean with the best of them, but he could not gain weight. He could not back squat to save his life. Yep. And what I gather, his brother's about the same.
Dude, so, all right, so I want to circle right back here. So you placed in third at your first Delaware event. Where do you kind of go from there, and where's the progression start to really ramp up to where you become, top 10, 15 guy in the world?
So we go from finishing third. I love it. It was such a difference for me, and I noticed it right away. Like, when I play football, if we were on the opposite teams, which, Fran, we did play against each other at some point, so I didn't realize this until recently.
I was probably getting smoked somewhere by. If I ever went against you, it probably did not go well for me. But
well, it depends on the year. But if we line up in football, I was trying to kill you. I'm the psychotic football player that wanted to hurt anybody on the other team or whatever it may be. I know it's not as acceptable anymore, but that was me. And maybe that's why the NFL didn't work out. I don't know, but. And then as a strongman competition, I'm getting pointers and tips from people I'm competing against, same weight class. And we're helping each other warm up and stuff like that. So, that was new to me immediately. And I heard about it. I kind of knew it was coming, but it kind of it smacked me in the face that first comp. I found out later that was probably one of the strongest regional comps at the time because we had a guy that had been in the sport for numerous years, Jeff Henderson, another guy, Manny Frias, who won the 2021 Amateur Nationals. So I lost to two guys, and I didn't know. I was like, oh, it's Delaware. It's a small state. It shouldn't be that bad. Then I came in third out of five, and I'm like, shit. But very quickly went into my next competition that summer, and I took first. And this was, I think, East Coast Most Powerful. It was in outside of Baltimore, Maryland. Took first there out of five. Qualified me for nationals. So strongman kind of works in you do the regional competitions, you win those, you go to amateur nationals, you do well enough in amateur nationals, then you go to world amateur, which is what the Arnold series, the Arnold amateur. So I was kind of sitting, my third competition was Strongman Corp Nationals in 2019, and I pulled my adductor pretty bad, and I was able to finish the competition, but didn't finish well in the bottom 50%. Came back the next year, did a little better, and then came back the third year. It took me 3 nationals, and I was able to finish second, which earned me my pro status, quote unquote, and allowed me to compete in the Arnold Amateur in 2022. So this was October 21. Came in second in North America, and then ended up coming to Arnold 21, where I was like, all right, our goal is to get to the final and finish the final real well, and my expectations kind of grow quickly there as I ended up winning it by half a point to Jack Planers, who beat me in nationals, but I got him in the world competition, and he, funny enough, we play football against each other, but he played for North Dakota State. So
Bison's got some dogs up there.
Yeah, they do, and he looks every bit the part.
I say every guy up there probably looks just like you guys.
No, he may be 6'8". He makes me look small.
Jesus.
But so after that went in amateur Arnold, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to kind of start getting into some bigger shows here. I started getting more serious about strongman. I went and got a strongman specific coach. And realized that, okay, I joked around for a whole year. I was like, I've really got myself in a pickle here now. We're in it, because I knew when I won the amateur, right, I'd be in the pro 2023 show. I was like, we better get ready. So I kept competing. I went to the Arnold, the Shaw Classic Open in August 2022, won that. And then I'm like, I've really got myself in a pickle. I'm going to be in 2 major shows next year. And then there was one more qualifier called Official Strongman Games in November in 2022, which I actually didn't do so well in. Prospectively, I made it to the final, but I finished in 8th, where I was expected the podium. And for reference, like, Official Strongman Games has probably more of a international pool than the Arnold Amateur World Championship, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because it's more of an open category. It's less of amateur professionals. It's just like whoever can get in, if you meet the qualifications, you're in. Like, there's no invite-only spots, stuff like that. And then that took me to 2023, where I was competing in the biggest shows that there kind of is in strongman.
Yeah. And it's just so crazy because I remember, like, all throughout, he's Tommy's career at Delaware, like, he was always talking about Big Tom. He's like, oh, dude, Big Tom's, like, getting into World's Strongest Man. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, like, I remember at their banquet this past year, or I guess last year, was when I'm talking to you and you're like, yeah, I just won. Or you had just won. I guess this was probably after you had won the amateur or whatever. And yep. I remember I asked you, I was like, dude, are you going to be on like World's Strongest Man? And you're like, I don't know, dude, there's a chance. And I was just like, holy shit, dude. Like, what a turnaround that is from yeah, I'm playing football. And all of a sudden, like 5-6 years later, you're like, yeah, I guess I'm top 10 strongest men in the world now. Like,
yeah, I say the same thing to myself, especially after the Arnold, because, the expectation for the amateur guy in the Arnold Pro Show is usually to finish last. And the goal was, to myself, to prove I belong. Like, I didn't want another story like the NFL, whereas you think you're in and then they cut you, you're gone forever. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry as much about because sometimes in strongman, right, if I hit a PR on deadlifts, if I hit a new record that I haven't hit before, right, and I increased my weight by 50 pounds, but I finished last in the event, like, what do you do, So it's less of the, like, I got to beat you. It's like, if I get PR and everything, I know I'm going to finish well. And when I ended up finishing 5th, I was like, this may open some more doors. I got a really late call at the World's Strongest Man, where, that show actually went really well for me, minus one event, but it shows you how bad one event can kill you in strongman. It's very much a marathon. And if you can finish, second or third place in everything, you'll win the whole show. And you can not finish last. Like, my goal at the Arnold was like, don't finish last in anything, and I didn't, and then I took 5th. So that can work both ways.
And what was it like for you, like, mentally having, you're still relatively new to the sport, I guess, by any standard of, like, being on the level you're at with how new you were just a few years ago. What was your mentality like going into these two major events, watching guys that, you probably idolized 4 years ago? I was like, oh, it would be insane to be on that level one day.
Yeah. Try like 5 months, not even 4 years ago. like 5 months, I'm like, I hope I make it a World's Strongest Man. I believe I was on a podcast last August, a full year. And they asked me, when do you think you'll get the World's Strongest Man? And I said, I'm hoping for 3 years. And then in the next year, I get in somehow. Luckily at the Shaw Open in 2022, they had us kind of working with the professionals for some events. So I got to know some people. I got my nerves settled out a little bit, but there's actually a funny story. Like, we were sitting in the rules meeting with the Shaw Open judges, who were the same judges for the Pro Show, and Shaw's historically, like, extremely strict with, like, down calls and stuff that could be kind of left up to judges' discretion in strongman. They're going to be the strictest if there is. And Nick Best who is arguably one of the longtime great strongmen. He did the show on the History Channel. He's very well versed. He's done it for an incredibly long time and has been a great mentor to the sport. Well, he's sitting there kind of like looking at the rookies, and Brian Shaw starts walking up. Like, they just finished something, and then here comes Big Z. Here comes Brian Shaw. The first time I've seen these people in person, and my leg is like doing this. Like, just absolutely losing it. And Nick Best looks at me. He's like, dude, relax. You're fine. It's okay. Calm down. And then we actually got talking later, and he was the commentator for the show, and we've developed a great relationship since then. And I feel like I can talk to Nick as like a mentor. And then kind of talking with him has kind of helped me, relax a little bit when, now my wife's friends with, Luke and Tom Stolman's wife. It's kind of weird. Like I'm messaging with Carrie Shaw to make sure we're good to go for the Shaw Classic. It's like I'm having drinks with some of the guys after the competition. It's very different, and and it wasn't but like a couple months ago. I'm like I just want to meet these guys and shake their hand and like talk to them. It's very very surreal how fast it can kind of happen where you become one of them.
It's crazy, man. Life comes at you fast.
It does.
But in a good way. It's incredible, dude. One thing I was literally just thinking about as you were going through there, I forgot to ask her, what is the eating schedule like to be like in the position you're at? Like, what is the regimen for like are you eating like 10,000 calories a day?
Not quite that much. I say I'm probably 6,000 to 8,000. I have the luxury that I don't think most people have, and this is going to be a curse later. I've never tried really hard to gain weight. I don't do I've heard of people doing olive oil and milk, like crazy freaking things to try to put on weight. I've never had to do it. My body's just hangs on the weight naturally. But for like pro day, when I needed to get down to like that 300 mark, I had to like starve myself to get to that weight. So I don't have a problem eating. Like I just eat when I'm hungry, and then I stop eating when I'm full, and then I'm at the weight I'm at.
Now, hold on, though, because 6,000 to 8,000 pounds, like I just kind of eat when I'm hungry. Like, listen, I eat like 2,000, 2,500 calories. I don't eat a ton, but like I eat. That's like 3 times, 4 times what I eat. So, like, what does your daily intake look like when you eat only when you're hungry?
Well, I start with breakfast. I'll have breakfast every day at like 4:45, 5 a.m. And that's not because I'm waking up to eat. It's because I'm waking up for work. I just got to eat that early, so I make sure I get the food in me. And that's just rice, eggs, spinach, and I eat the same breakfast pretty much every day. Then we have a snack, whatever I can grab from the nutrition counter, a bunch of fruit, some hard-boiled eggs, maybe a protein bar or two. We train, lunch, and my lunch is pretty much the same thing for the last 3 years. I just do it by the container, so I don't know how many cups. I know that's not very helpful for those trying to, but two like to-go containers of white rice, lean ground beef, peppers, onions, spinach, and carrots.
Two takeout containers.
Yeah, like this big, which is not helpful for those that are just listening and not watching the video. But so, and then I'll have another snack, and then I'll eat. Dinner is kind of free game for me. It's whatever, whether it's pasta or whether it's steak if I can afford it, which is why we're on the show. Yeah. We got to be financially smart and not buy a ribeye every night as much as I'd like to.
Yep.
And then like a protein shake before I go to bed. But like to put it, like when I go out to eat and I need to eat the same amount that I would probably for dinner, I mean, and like I would argue that most restaurants are very small portions nowadays.
Especially for you.
For a 360-pound man.
I got that complaint too, and I'm 200 pounds. I couldn't imagine how you'd be feeling ordering out to eat.
So we don't go out to eat much because it's 2 appetizers for me and my wife, and she gets her entree because I eat majority of the appetizers. Then I got to get 2 entrees pretty much every time. We can't go out to eat for under $100, and it's really annoying.
2 apps, 2 entrees, bring them out.
Which I guess that's a lot when I sit here and spell it out, but they're small entrees, little burgers. They don't make burgers as big as they used to, you know?
First financial advice when it comes to strongman, don't be one. It's gonna be it's very expensive to eat that much in a week.
Exactly.
So cool. Let's dive right in here. So, naturally, one of the things we always ask people is, what's the best money move, worst money move you've made or seen? Obviously, you've been around some interesting, scenarios given your experience with the NFL, with strongman. So, what would you say are the best or worst financial decisions you've made or seen along your journey?
Well, even though I had aspirations to make it a while in the NFL, and by no means was I making crazy money, but it was great to be just training and getting ready for football. I saved a lot of my money while I was in Green Bay, and that allowed me to come to Delaware as a volunteer to start, and because I had saved up that kind of safety net where I saw guys that were first round, second round draft picks. We were literally across the street from casino, and I think that was done on purpose. And they would just go blow, thousands of dollars. I couldn't believe it, man. It was, and these were guys that were drafted, and they could have been probably set for life on the amount of money that they were drafted with. But obviously, free agent signees are not like that, and I was able to kind of save and create that safety net. Not saying I probably did it the best way, but that definitely helped me with aspirations later in life. And then right now, we alluded to it just now. I have to meal prep for that sole reason. If I don't plan ahead for pretty much any event I'm going to, any just normal week in terms of preparation for food for the strongman purpose, I'll spend $500 if I forget to meal prep that week and I need to go out to eat for lunch every day. Maybe not $500, but at least $300 if I don't do my meal prep. If I do my meal prep, it's $40 for lunch for the week.
Yeah.
So it's planning and preparation, like most things in life. That's all it is.
No, absolutely. I could see you housing at least 3 Chipotle bowls. It's nothing.
Me and Frey went to Chipotle the other day. It's like, just give me 4 burritos, double meat across the board.
Well, we got this place called El Diablo, which is even better than Chipotle. But don't get DoorDash because it's freaking. That's another piece of financial advice as a strong man. If you're already doing it, don't get DoorDash because that's gonna make it worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And then naturally, I think this is probably an even better question for you, given the fact that you're dealing with young athletes and young individuals every single day of your life as a coach. What's like one good piece of advice or general wisdom that you would give people as they're trying to grow in their own journey, whether it's as an athlete, just in their own general career? What's a good piece of life advice that you would give them?
Well, I think for me it's consistent because you got to prepare. You got to prepare for the game. You got to prepare for practice. You got to prepare for weight training that day. You got to anything in your life that you're setting up to do, regardless if it's starting your own financial company. You guys did the proper preparation to set yourself up for that. All to me, all life is when opportunity meets preparation. The definition of luck, right? If I'm preparing for the game as a student athlete, and I know that my goal is to perform as best as I possibly can in this game, I need to be preparing in that moment, up the week leading up. That's the easy part. That game's in sight. You're taking the necessary steps throughout the week to prepare yourself for that moment. It's the months and years in advance of thinking about that moment and preparing for it. And you have to look at it as a whole picture. So often student athletes will take advantage or will not appreciate it's very easy to look at the human body as like, all right, I'm a lacrosse player, whatever I am right now in this moment. I'm a weightlifter in this moment. And then I am a competitor when I'm out on the field. Where the human body just doesn't work that way. And I would argue most things in life don't work that way. You have to look at it as a whole. Am I preparing with my sleep? Am I preparing with the food I eat? All right. If I know I'm going to have an issue with eating lunch 3 days before the competition, am I going to meal prep and take care of myself, or am I going to skip lunch and deplete my body of nutrients that I'm going to need for 3 days down the road? And then preparation and training. I probably sound like Coach Rocco. That's probably what I'm sounding like. Coach Rocco and Coach McCorkle.
It sounds a little bit familiar. I think I've heard this message before.
I almost started saying, yes, Coach. Yes, Coach.
You got to earn the right to win. Get on the concentration line and leave everything at the door.
For those that don't know, that is an incredibly good impression, and I don't think it changed much. Oh, man.
Awesome, dude. So last question. I want to put you on the spot. When are we getting the first World's Strongest Man championship? You said last year. You said 3 years to get there. You got there in 5 months. Are we gonna win it all next year or what?
I got to get the finals first. I got to get to the final first. I think the goal next year is to get to the final. I would say I'm not like on top of cloud 9 right now because I'm not sitting on a whole lot of invites, which always airs that it's harder for Americans to get into these big shows because Europe. They have like the Giants Live circuit. So there's like a constant 8 shows a year that you can be invited to. America, it's like the Arnold, which is international, the Shaw, which is international, and the Rogue Invitational, which is international. I hope I'm invited to the Worlds next year. I feel like I should be. But right now, the Shaw Classic in a couple weeks is my only guarantee. So we got to sell all out on that and then kind of work on the next piece. So I'm hoping, right, we get invited to the Worlds next year. I can get to the stone off, get to the final, and then we go from there. I know that doesn't answer your question. We'll give myself a safe bet. We'll go 5 years.
All right, love it.
Hey, we're in.
We're getting one. That's all that matters. Maybe two.
Oh man, if we get one, I don't even know what I do. I don't even know what I go from there.
Well, we'll make you keep a promise. We'll bring you back on once you do. We could say we had full faith in you all along the way. We called it. I'm gonna say 2025. 2025 is a good year to be the champ.
All right. I think there's a lot of people calling that year, so we're gonna have to see how this goes.
Well, awesome, man. Well, listen, we appreciate you coming on. If people want to follow you on social, where could they find you?
The best place for strongman stuff is just my Instagram at Tom Evans Strongman. And then I post a little bit of coaching stuff on my Twitter or X or whatever the heck it's called now, at Coach Tom Evans.
Awesome, dude. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck in a couple weeks, man. I'm excited to see how you do. We're looking forward to it. And yeah, man, World's Strongest Man champion 2025.
Go get after it, huh?
Appreciate it, guys. We'll get to work.
Thanks, man.